everybody, and welcome back to the channel, and welcome back to another featured flight. Here we are sitting in Santiago, Chile International Airport this morning, looking at this beautiful FlightFactor 777-300ER in front of us and the LATAM livery. Welcome everybody. This is going to be the feature flight that I've been looking forward to the most probably throughout the entire year. Not only are we taking my favorite plane in this sim out, the FlightFactor Boeing 777-300 variant, but also we're going to be doing our first international flight here on the channel for our featured flight. And this is going to be taking place down in South America from Santiago, Chile over to Rio de Janeiro. It has been probably, in the sim world, probably 2-3 years since I have flown into Rio de Janeiro. It was probably my X-Plane 11 days now that I think about it. Man, that definitely was a long time ago. But today's the day. Here we are. We're going to be taking off out of here in an early morning flight, making our way across South America, and really hoping for a really good flight. I actually did a long haul into, let's see, it was Buenos Aires the other day from Baltimore. Not a real world route, but just one where I was like, you know what, I'm going to do a long haul route, and then you kind of flying around South America for a couple days to kind of get us set up for this flight here today. And it's been wild. The weather has been absolutely crazy. Just like here in North America in the wintertime, the winds are just absolutely crazy. And it's like that right now in South America. Yesterday I flew from Buenos Aires over to Santiago, Chile to get set up for this flight, and I was met with 130 mile per hour headwinds that were absolutely just knocking me around in the 737-800. I was in the Galeão Airlines livery, and today the winds are not much different. However, the difference is we're going eastward, so those winds are going to be to our back, which is going to be very much to our favor, and probably knocking about a good 45 minutes to an hour off of our total flight time. So very excited to have that in our favor here today, because when you're met with those major headwinds, it definitely can create a much longer than expected flight. So it's nice to be able to have those work in your favor. All right, well, like I said, we are in the FlightFactor Boeing 777-300ER in this beautiful LATAM livery. And today we're going to be taking with us 386 total passengers, 70,000 pounds in block fuel. We're looking at a cruise altitude of 35,000 feet. We'll probably end up step climbing to about 37, maybe 38. We'll just kind of see what those winds do and what it kind of does for us as in terms of what it's given us as our most optimal. And we're looking at about a 3 hour and 13 minute air time and 3 hours and 41 minutes gate to gate. So definitely not a long haul by all means. Pretty quick flight for this airplane, but we do have obviously a large amount of passengers to get from Santiago, Chile over to Rio de Janeiro. So one thing that I want to do this fall here and through the month of August is just continue to fly through South America. I've really pretty much conquered it seems like the majority of North America and everything that it has to offer. And you know, down here in South America, there's just a lot of really fun airports to fly into. So I'm going to be spending some time here in South America. You might be seeing some more on arrivals, maybe even another feature flight for the month of September coming from South America. Not sure yet, but definitely have been enjoying my few flights already that I've had down here. And like I said, it's been a long time since I've flown into Rio de Janeiro. Definitely been a few years, so I'm excited to come on back and see what that scenery looks like. Sitting in front of us here, we are running the X-Codr Designs Airport Scenery. I also have my Tobii Eye Tracker set up. I just actually posted a post last maybe Sunday or 2 Sundays ago now of my sim setup. It's going to be in the post page. Go ahead and check that out. And yeah, it's definitely coming together, my whole setup here. I've got 2 1440p monitors now, Tobii Eye Tracker all set up. I'm going to talk a little bit more about the Tobii Eye Tracker here as we get started and we make our way out to the runway. I definitely have some things that I still need to fine tune on it, so I'll kind of touch base on that. And yeah, let's go ahead and jump into the cockpit. Let's not waste any more time, and let's get our airplane here ready to rock and roll and on our way out of Chile this morning. All right, well, first things first, looks like our load sheet is ready. Before I started this stream here, we already were boarding and getting fuel on board, cargo on board, so we have all of our numbers here ready for us, which is great. So we're going to hop down here to the FMC and we're going to start punching in some numbers. You can see I also entered in our flight plan, which we'll go ahead and review here in just a little bit once we get all of our weights and balances in. One thing I wish you could do with this FlightFactor plane is kind of bring this sheet with you and kind of hold it, like if you were holding it in your, like your left hand and typing with your right. That would be one good update that I would love to see in this plane, but I don't think we're ever going to get that, but that would be kind of cool. All right, zero fuel weight, 523.0 with 2,000 pounds on the reserve, 35,000 feet for our cruise altitude. We'll go and throw that in there. Cost index is going to be 15, so we're going to throw 15 in there, and that just shows you with that low cost index just how much tailwind we're going to be having on this flight. All right, so now for our thrust here, basically we are going to be looking at a total air temperature of plus 51. We're going to throw that in there. That's going to give us a 99.7% D-rated takeoff here out of our runway. Flaps 5 for departure this morning. And then with that, we're going to go over to our second page here for our takeoff ref. We're going to enter in our winds, and we're going to get our reference outside air temperature in as well. So winds are variable right now, just at 2 miles per hour, so really no wind at all this morning, which is always great. Should be a smooth departure out of Santiago this morning. And then we're just above freezing right now, so it is awfully cold here this morning in Santiago, Chile. We'll go ahead and accept our V1 speeds. And then we're going to go over here to our EFB, and we're going to grab our CG weight, and it looks like our CG is going to be 33.5. And so we'll go ahead and get 33.5 thrown in, and that's going to give us a trim of 3.75. Beautiful. All right, so let's see here. Just taking a look at our monitor. We are going to my other monitor here. We're just going to make sure that everything is looking good from our VATSIM standpoint. We are online right now. There are no controllers, so we will go ahead and push and start at our own discretion. If we get controllers online, we'll of course be connected and we'll get our squawk. But right now I just kind of put a makeshift squawk in there because Auto ETC did not give us any squawk here this morning. So we'll just kind of wait and see. Okay, perfect. So we have all of our waypoints in here. We've got our pretty much everything good to go. Let's just go ahead and review our flight plan here quick. You can see we're going to be taking off out of, let's see, runway 17 right this morning, and then we're just going to keep stepping through this, taking a look at it. I'm controlling my FMC through my wind control FMC, so it does work now with your 777 if you have it for the 737. It is fully compatible, which is always great. All right, so you can kind of see we're coming in a little bit from the south. We're going to venture north towards our runway approach, and in we go. Looks wonderful to me, friends. Okay, perfect. So that all looks good. Obviously, if our runway ends up changing, we can always make adjustments as we go. But as of right now, that is what we've got plugged in for our departure. Fuel pumps can go to the on position. We have no fuel in the center tank, so we'll leave those off. And then we'll get our anti-ice over to the auto position. Very good. And in just a moment, we will go ahead and call for our pushback. Oh, look at all those grease marks and everything from that X-Codr design scenery. It looks absolutely stunning. One of the best improvements I ever did to my sim was installing that for all of my airports. All right, so over here to, let's see here, over here to the FMC, we're going to go ahead and read the pre-flight briefing.
Are you ready on your
And they're going to go ahead and do their thing. So let's get our IAS all good to go here and lined up so that matches. Flight directors can come on. And we'll let our pilots do their thing here, review that flight plan, and then runway 35 for departure. Not runway 17, my bad on that one. Okay, so we'll get our secondary FMC over to the progress page so we can just keep our eye on our total route. And yeah, oops, look, okay. Sometimes this plane does that. They have that that door open, and if you go to one of my camera views on the left-hand side, it shoots you right to that door for some reason. So we'll just use this view. But yeah, look at that ground texture out there, you guys. I mean, this is not a third-party airport. This is a default scenery. Everything you see is default except for that ground texture that is imposed by the X-Codr Design Airport Enhancement scenery. I talked about it a lot in my last video. And so obviously go check out my review video, go check out my last feature flight where I covered a little bit more in depth, but it is the one thing that you need to do to your X-Plane 12 sim by all means. Alright, so we are just about done here with everything. We're going to get closed up outside. We're going to get the doors closed. Everything's going to be good to go. And while we wait for them to finish their little briefing here, let's take a look at our flight plan here on the VetSim network. So you can see our path here across South America, just continuing to venture northeast, and then we will come up from the south over Rio, and then we'll just be vectored on into our arrival runway. So that is what the flight plan looks like today. And okay, let's see here. It doesn't look like I've got, maybe my zero fuel weight not entered in correctly. It looks like we've got a weight balance issue. So let's investigate that. I may have looked at the wrong number here. Takeoff weight. Okay, yep, I did takeoff weight instead of zero fuel weight. That will that'll do it. Okay, so let's go to index and let's go to, let's see here, not that. I want to go back to where I can enter in my zero fuel weight. Okay, just checking a couple things here on SimBrief, making sure everything looks good there. This is why you do your checks, right? And why you do your checklist, because you want to make sure that you obviously don't have anything entered in wrong. So let's go to, let's see, we can go to perf. There we go. So for our zero fuel weight today, I'm just going to kind of zoom in here and get our actual number. All right, so our actual zero fuel weight is 454.1. We're going to throw that in there. Yep, very good. I'm glad we caught that because that does make a major difference. And then we're going to have to re-accept our V speeds here, get those in there, and then we can go up here and get that speed adjusted as well for takeoff. All right, perfect. We are all good to go, friends. We just need to close up outside, and then we are ready to get pushed back and out of here. So we'll go over here to the FB. We'll go remove all equipment.
Please remove it.
Very well, sir.
And from remove all equipment, we will just wait for that to be all cleaned up. And then we can go our next option here, which is close all hatches.
Close all hatches. We are ready to pressurize.
Of course, sir.
And
Pressurize.
then with the hatches all closed, we'll go down to better pushback to start pushback. We'll call for a pushback tug.
Tow is driving up.
And we'll detach the jetway. And then lastly, we do need to get the door closed because obviously we don't want to be pushing back with that open. Ugh, I love this livery, you guys. Look at this livery. It's just so clean. I love it. Very nice. Yeah, the ground textures look really good, but look at that really terrible anti-aliasing on that ground. I mean, that is one thing that X-Plane has got to address with their new scenery that they say is coming here with, you know, probably within the next year's time, give or take. But you could just see that blockiness. There's no smooth lines from that shadow of that plane going onto the ground. It looks terrible, to be honest with you. I mean, it just doesn't compare in any way to Microsoft. And yeah, it really is such a shame that X-Plane continues to struggle with their anti-aliasing in the way that they do. I think in the cockpit, in the cabin, everything looks a lot better than what it did in years past, especially since X-Plane 11, of course. But when you look at this scene here and you see all of those blocks, basically, that it cannot draw in those in a smooth line. It's kind of unacceptable, to be honest with you, in 2026 to have a simulator be that way. I mean, you don't see it here at all. Look how great this looks in the cockpit. Like, nice, smooth edges. But then you jump outside and it's completely different. So maybe one day. Maybe one day. So, all right, let's talk to our purser here.
Sir, we have
and we got to get her to close that door before we release that parking brake and get pushed back. And then we got to get these doors armed.
Yes.
So Let's go close
doors.
all.
Okay.
And then we gotta let her know again, and we need to go ahead
All
and arm
ears.
those doors.
Doors to automatic.
No. Some of the doors are
All
open.
right.
Should I arm the closed doors?
Perfect. Door is closed. And then let's see here. She's not too happy. Let's just go back and do it again.
How can I help you?
Doors
All
to
doors
auto.
to armed mode.
Yes, sir.
And then
All
she will
doors
go
are
ahead
armed
and
checked.
get those doors armed for us here. Okay, perfect. All right, everything looks good up top. We were just basically waiting for pushback so we can go ahead and get our engine started. We'll release that parking brake, and we are out of here on our way to our runway. We'll get our couple lights on here, and then we'll wait for all the others until after pushback is done. We'll go up to engine number 2, get that spooling. One of the greatest things about this plane is the engine sounds. The engine sounds are just so awesome. I have a Samsung soundbar that I run from my computer, and it will literally shake the house as these plane engines are spooling up, and it's so awesome. And so anytime you're spooling up these engines or revving them up for a takeoff, it really is fully immersive. And I can imagine if you had a really good pair of headphones too, it would sound absolutely fantastic. All right, engine number 2 is looking good. Get our cabin announcement started for LATAM Airlines using that cabin sim add-on. All right, so we'll go engine number 1 over to the start position, and that will start spooling up.
Safety instructions as we travel through South America on a magical journey without frontiers.
Turn those down just a little bit.
Please come with us.
You know, one thing too, if you look at those mountains straight ahead, the one thing that they really need to address with all this like scenery enhancement that Xplane talks about working on is they need to work on their mountains as well. The quality and the texturing in those mountains is Xplane 10, Xplane 11 quality. The fact that they really didn't even touch those when it comes to Xplane 12 is really kind of disappointing. So I really want to see the mountains get such an overhaul. You know, a lot of people talk about when you're at cruise and you don't need this high level of detail on the ground, and that's very true, right? But when you're flying over a mountain range, the ground is not 35,000 feet below you, right? Sometimes it's only 15 to 20,000 feet below you, and so you want to see a little bit more detail. But when you look at that mountain range out ahead, you're not going to see a lot of detail. One thing that has been great and a great addition, is a free addition, is the XA Snow plugin, and I highly encourage you to check that out. I have a review of that on my page. Please check that out as well. And as we are coming up here in North America in a few months to the winter months arriving, you definitely want to have that implemented into your Xplane 12 sim. It'll make your mountains look a lot more realistic. And it is possible for us to see some of that on this flight this morning, with our temperatures being close to freezing and our mountain range. So if we do get that, I'll definitely go ahead and point that out. But it really adds a lot if you can get that XA Snow plugin put in. Alright, our flaps are set to 5 degrees. We're going to get our trim set to 3.5, so that's all set for takeoff. Very good. And we've got our LNAV, VNAV, and we've got our auto throttles. I'm going to, in just a moment, put on my track IR, and you're going to kind of see the camera move quite a bit. I'm not going to keep it on for very long. Yeah, you can see I'm moving it around right now. Movements are pretty smooth, but it's going to be a great tool to have. Once I get it dialed in, it's going to be a great tool to have for taxiing, especially when you're on Flightsim and you've got other people taxiing around you. That's where it's going to be the most helpful, where you can actually look and not have to click and drag your mouse to take a look left or right. You can actually just look like you normally would. So I just have a hotkey basically on my keyboard that I have to toggle it on and off, and so I can quickly access it whenever I want it. So just got it implemented into my sim setup yesterday, so I haven't had a whole lot of time to take a look at it and play around with it and get it fine-tuned. So I'll talk about it a little here today, but maybe on our next feature flight I'll have it fine-tuned. I can show you a little bit more detail, and maybe I'll do a review video on it too, who knows. But we'll see how much I actually like using it. I know some people really like it and other people just kind of, you know, they have it but they don't really use it all that often, just due to personal preferences. So we'll see how much I end up actually using it, but I really would like to have it implemented into my sim a lot, because I think it's going to be very helpful to look left and right more naturally than having to use your mouse. Alright, APU can start spooling down as we are making our way out to the runway. We've got our taxi lights on, strobe lights are on, and we got the sun rising behind us. That looks really good. Aliasing through the cockpit window looks good, but that outside view is atrocious. As you leave the aircraft, inflate your vest by pulling the red handle or blowing into the tube. A light will activate upon contact with water. Alright, so here we are. We are just getting ourselves to the runway. No other traffic here on Flightsim with us this morning, so it's just going to be a quick turn and burn to the runway, and we'll be on our way. If the cabin loses pressure, oxygen masks will automatically drop down from above your seat. Pull the mask toward you and place it over your nose. Got a total of 1,600 nautical miles ahead of us on our way over to Brazil this morning. Put on your own mask first before assisting children and others. When we land in Rio, I want to try to find Sugarloaf Mountain. I know it's going to be off in the distance, but I also want to try to find Christ the Redeemer statue that overlooks the city. So I always like to do those sort of landmarks when we fly places like that. Alright, landing lights can go on now. We're going to be making our turn here onto our runway of runway 35 left. Ladies and gentlemen, we will be out of here in just a moment. We hope you enjoy your trip. Perfect. Our announcements are all done. If you're interested in those announcements, that is by Cabin Sim. It's actually a person who was, I think, a high schooler when they released it. They probably aren't anymore, but almost have like 100 different cabin announcements on there that you can play external from your sim, but it really adds a lot, and it's really kind of a neat thing to have on your sim. So Cabin Sim, check it out.
164 knots. Check.
Alright, we got to make this turn here. We got to get ourselves all nice and lined up.
Left.
And we will put a little bit of brake in there. We'll get all nice and centered. Very good. Alright, we'll get our displays how we want them here. Alright, throttles to 40%. Ladies and gentlemen, let's go to Rio.
Thrust reference.
And
VNAV
Toga.
Speed arm. LNAV on. Auto throttle hold.
V1 and rotate. Gotta pull up real slight on this yoke. Don't tail strike. You're not a heavy aircraft, so she is going to want to go flying. Alright, gear up. Go ahead and pitch that nose up for climb. This plane will very quickly overspeed on you if you do not have enough pitch in your takeoff, if you are a lightweight aircraft. If you're heavy, if you're carrying a ton of fuel, a ton of passengers, then it's a different story. It's going to be more shallow of a takeoff. But with only a 3-hour flight in a plane that can hold almost 20 hours of fuel. This is nothing. All right. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and engage autopilots, let the plane take over, and then what we are going to do is we are going to enjoy some of these wing views coming out of Santiago, Chile this morning. A little bit of a sunrise over that wing, beautiful. You know, I talk about how X-Plane, you know, graphically speaking, has a long way to go, and it does. There's no doubt about it. But there are some views, just like this one here, that just look really good. I mean, honestly, it's no photogrammetry, right? We know it could look better in comparison to Microsoft, but to me, like, being that this is a default scene here, definitely really cool. Definitely. Happy with what we're seeing out the window here. Alright, so a lot of what you are seeing out there is the XA Snow plugin. That looks phenomenal. I mean, look at that, you guys. What a transition from just the default scenery to now the XA Snow layout being there, like the layover. I mean, that looks fantastic. I'm going to take a screenshot. I mean, that looks absolutely amazing. So, if you are running X-Plane 12, and you don't have that XA Snow plugin, please look it up. It's a free plugin. It's very easy to implement into your sim, and I mean, it's going to give you scenes like this. Absolutely so cool. And here's the thing too. It actually is tied to, I think it's like the National Weather Service or something, where it's going to be updating as we go, and you're going to see it disappear here probably in a moment, and then reload back in because it's getting different levels of like whatever the snow is. God, look at that. Look at that. It just looks incredible. See, those mountains look so much better, but you have to doctor them with these plugins, right? And this is where X-Plane, this should all be implemented into the sim, right? This should not have to come from a plugin. In 2026, this should be already in the sim. And the fact that we don't have that is really a shame. So thankfully these plugins exist. But if you know me, I've talked about this a lot on my channel. I try to not throw a ton of plugins into my sim because it's just going to ask for problems. But this is one that you must have, especially if you live in like the fly and cold weather climates. It's just, it adds so much to your sim. Man, look at that. Look at those mountains, you guys. It looks so good. Oh, alright. Well, alright, ladies and gentlemen, this is where I'm going to leave you guys. We are going to be coming up on our transition altitude here in just a moment, and this is where we're going to break for our intermission. And when we return, we're going to be on our descent into Rio de Janeiro, and we are going to be coming into our runway. And so stay tuned for that, and I will see you on the flip side. Enjoy the view, you guys. Alright, welcome back everybody. We are on our way down. We just passed under 17,000 feet on our way down into Rio de Janeiro this afternoon. Flight's been going absolutely fantastic. It's been a really nice flight. We've got some great tailwind to kind of keep us ahead of schedule here, so it's been really good. No ATC yet, no ATC online. We just have some pilots that are communicating with one another here throughout the network. So, but we do have some auto ATC that's been popping up. So, well, we're going to do our approach here as originally planned, and we are going to be coming in. You can see here on our map, we are coming in here from the south. We're going to be taking a sharp turn here to the right once we get to our next waypoint here, and then in we go. So we were originally going to be landing the opposite direction, but now we're coming in on runway 28. So we're going to be just making a little bit of adjustments there from our original flight plan, but overall very nice. And landing into Rio has been very fun in the past, and it's one of those regions of the world that I really haven't flown a whole lot into, but have always really enjoyed it the few times that I have. It's just a very different type of landscape, and if you know anything about this region, there's Santos Dumont, which is the other airport in this region, which is really fun to fly into. You just definitely have to make sure you're flying the correct aircraft into that airport, as it is a very short runway. But it might be a video upcoming here on the channel. Since I'm in this region, I might be doing some flights to and from Santos Dumont over maybe to Sao Paulo and back. And I'm kind of thinking about recording those landings just to kind of put a collage together, maybe like a on arrival, or maybe just a short little video. That could be something that would be fun to have on the channel. It's depending on the direction you're coming in at. You fly right by Sugarloaf Mountain if you're coming in from the south. If you're coming in from more the north, you've got that late turn either way into your runway. So it's one that's very challenging, and it's one that is not for the faint of heart. You definitely need to know how to fly your aircraft and make sure you are ready to go on that approach. But today we don't have to worry about that. We're landing into the major airports for Rio de Janeiro with our 777-300, and so we will be down here in just a few minutes. Alright, just passing underneath 10,000 feet. We'll go up top here. We'll get our runway turnoff lights on. We'll get our landing lights on as well as we are setting up here. Our airport is just off to the right of our nose of our airplane. You can kind of see it there on our PFD, as we are going to go just past north of the field, and then we'll do our loop back around into runway 28 right. We are planning for an ILS approach, so we have all that ready to go. The nice thing about the 777 is it's pretty much all set up for you. In the 737, you do need to, in the nav portion of your panel, need to set up your frequency and then your course and everything on your autopilot panel. But for the 737, it's really straightforward. You basically just set it up in your FMC ahead of time, and you're ready to go. Very, very nice feature there of the 777. I don't know, given that I've never flown the 787 in the sim, but I would assume the 787 is set up in the same manner. I would be very surprised if it wasn't. So I really enjoy flying the ILS approaches with the 777, just because it is even kind of more or less hands-on than what like an RNAV approach would even be. It just allows you to focus more on making sure that you're coming in at the right altitude, speed, and you got that stable approach that you're looking for. But all right, guys, well, we're getting ready here. We're under 10,000 feet. We're going to keep our speed up here, just since we do need to go out past the airport and then loop back down and around. And once we land, we're going to go ahead and, of course, taxi to the gate. I'm going to do a little bit of maybe a scenery tour here. This is all default scenery. I do not have any third-party scenery, but Xplane 12 is really great with landmarks. And so if you know anything about Rio de Janeiro, they have like the Christ the Redeemer statue. So maybe we'll take the camera and we'll kind of fly around and see if we can spot it. So stick around after the landing. Once we get to the gate, we'll go ahead and maybe take a look around and see if we can spot it.
speed.
All right, so we're just
190
under 6,000
knots.
feet now. We're going to start making our turn, and we will get ourselves all set up here for the ILS capture. And we are on our way in, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to go ahead and get our speed set here to 190, so that way we can get all set up and stable for our approach. And you're going to start to see that the airplane is going to start descending and also reducing that speed here at the same time as we go into this turn and get ourselves in line with the runway.
VNAV path.
We'll go ahead, flaps position 1. I'm going to actually decrease the speed here just a little bit more.
183 knots. Selected.
I always think to myself, what would the scenery look like with that enhanced scenery that they say is upcoming here in the next year or two? Obviously, a lot of the places within the world that I've flown, I'm going to want to fly again, especially down here in Brazil. Flying in and out of Rio, flying in and out of Sao Paulo, absolutely just would be mind-boggling for me to see that. You know, I don't fly Microsoft. I don't use map enhancement over here in Xplane. So for me to one day have scenery that is far better than what you're seeing out the window here is something that I would absolutely really enjoy, and it's going to be like discovering a whole new world essentially from the flight sim perspective. Alright, we'll go ahead and throw our localizer on and see if it captures. It did. Let's go ahead and arm approach. And with that, the plane will go ahead and start getting itself in line with the runway and get ourselves on that 3-degree slope into runway 28 right. Very good. Alright, we'll knock down our speed here a little bit more.
144 knots. Selected.
Alright, perfect.
Auto throttle on.
Turn our auto throttle back on now that our speed is starting to come down nicely. Rio traffic, Latam 350 heavy on a 5-mile final into runway ILS 28 right. Rio traffic. Alright, so we have ourselves all set up here, ready to go. No ATC online, but we did let the traffic know in the region that we are on our way in. And we are going to probably take this runway pretty far down. We can take it all the way down, but I think we're going to probably vacate probably a little bit before then. We won't need the whole runway, so we'll just vacate as soon as we can. You can see our friend over there in the 737 MAX 8 just took off.
Auto land 3.
Alright friends, let's get invested in the landing here. Enjoy, and I will see you down on the ground in Rio.
$1,000 to go.
1,000.
Approaching 28.
$500. 400. Approaching minimums. 300.
Flight slow.
Minimums 200.
Flight slow. Flight slow. Flight slow.
100.
Flight slow.
50, 40, 30, 20,
Auto throttle line.
10,
Auto throttle on.
All right, reversers out. Start bleeding off that speed. And we'll just roll her out. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Rio de Janeiro. Beautiful landing, beautiful approach, beautiful flight. All right, reverser stowed. We can go ahead and vacate here off to our left. Rio traffic, Latam 350 heavy, vacating runway 28 right, Rio traffic. Tell you, the key to landing this airplane, for any of you who may be watching, who are still learning this plane, is you just got to go easy on your flare. This plane being as big as it is, and this goes for the 200 variant as well, but like for as big as this plane is, you got to remember that it's going to kind of be in a natural flare already when you're coming into a land, right? So it's not that you don't flare, it's you're going to be very easy on that flare. Also, you got to make sure that you're not going to tail strike, right? Just like when you take off in this airplane, you're going to pull back very slightly on that yoke and let that plane lift before you really pull back, you know, like a normal amount that you would say like with like an Embraer or whatever, right? It's kind of the same thing, but like opposite with this plane, right? When you're landing, you let that plane kind of naturally do that flare and you're just kind of ease into that flare. You're not going to force that flare. And by doing that, I've really had success with learning how to land this plane as well as the 200. It might be a sim thing, but when you jump into the 767 in this sim, and it might just be an older flight model and it might need some work, so it might be that, but the 767 is by far the hardest plane that I own. That is the hardest to land, because that plane, just, you feel the weight of that plane in such a dramatic sense. You don't feel the weight of this plane as much as you do in the 7.6. So this plane, I've really had a lot of luck in having really nice landings. But that being said, you know, winds were calm, right? Good weather conditions, things can happen where, you know, I can still have these thumpers, right, when winds are acting up and everything. But I think if you kind of stick to the mechanics of the plane and how you land this plane differently than you would a 737, an Embraer, things of that nature, and the key is just to make sure that you still flare, but you ease into that flare, and it's a slight flare. It just lets those back wheels just kind of, you know, slide onto that runway in a gradual sense, rather than just kind of pulling back hard on the yoke and letting those wheels, you know, kind of smash into the runway. You just want that nice, easy glide into your runway, and that's the key. I mean, you see how long this plane is, right? You see how much tail there is to this plane, and you know, the plane on descent is going to be kind of pitched up, right, where the nose is pitched up. And so you don't need to do much more flare than what it's already giving you naturally. You're just kind of doing that little bit of flare to create that pocket, that pillow, to kind of ease it down on in. Now, I'm not a real world pilot. I don't claim to be. So if there's a real world pilot watching this and this is totally wrong, by all means call me out and all that. But I'm just saying, from a sim perspective, that's how I've really done great landings in this plane, is just by easing into that flare and not going aggressive with it. So yeah, just really love landing this plane, really love flying it. Alright guys, so what you're seeing in front of you is default scenery here in X-Plane 12 for Rio de Janeiro. What I really love about X-Plane 12 is just, even though this is default scenery, and look, it's nothing spectacular, right? Like, we see what's in front of us. We know that this looks old, right? In terms of what Microsoft would be able to present and all of that. But the level of detail that you're seeing, like, look at where these, we're going to see here in just a moment when we make our way into kind of the terminal area. You know, the default scenery does not need to have anything more than just like the terminal building and the correct taxiways, runways, all of that. Everything you see extra is really well thought out by X-Plane. So if you pull up a map of this airport and you can see on the map all of these concrete light towers, and you see them as we're turning in here, Xplane does not owe us that detail, right? And then you see like the building itself. The building itself, even though it's not an accurate representation of what the Rio de Janeiro airport looks like, it still is modeled after the real life representation. So the fact that Xplane 12 gives us that, it's really what makes it stand out from Microsoft. Now, Microsoft is beautiful, right? We all know it. But you're going to have to pay for that with every single airport that you fly into, where you want that like beauty and like accuracy of the terminals, accurate runways, accurate taxiways, right? All of those things. Maybe not the runways, but the taxiways for sure. And so the one thing that, you know, Xplane, where it really stands out, is just looking at these default airports. And I know some of them are a little bit handcrafted right by the community and all of that, and that's fantastic, and that should continue. And there's a few that Laminar has implemented themselves. But the fact that you get this level of detail in every single airport for free, right? Comes with the sim. It's really what makes it stand out from Microsoft. And so, yes, it doesn't have the beautiful mountains around it and the scenery and all of that. But I'm really thinking, and I'm really excited to see what Laminar does here in the next year or two with this enhanced scenery and photogrammetry. If they can make that native to the sim, where it doesn't become a pain to get that added in, and it doesn't do a huge drop on your frames, right? Then this sim, with everything they've done with the clouds, everything they've done with the sky color, the add-ons that they have, right? With FlightFactor, with Tolus, all of that. Here's our gate right here. Gate 29. This sim is going to seriously have a future. And I made a video a couple months back about the future of Xplane and how really the continued path for this simulator has to be all around their scenery. They have the flight models figured out. They have some major developers, albeit there should be more, right, for both scenery and aircraft. But if they can get everything else figured out in terms of their scenery, then this simulator is going to be top notch. And I'm excited for the future of Xplane if that's the path that they go. But they have to get there soon, because if they don't, it's going to be a problem, especially if Microsoft were to ever release a 2028, 2030 version. Microsoft cannot release another sim and Xplane be in this condition. Because if Xplane is still in this condition when another version of Microsoft releases, forget it. I think Xplane is probably done. All right, let's focus here on our taxi. We got 1 meter to go. We will... Okay, stop right there. Perfect. We'll set that parking brake. Very good. And then we will... Got a long jetway here. Wow. Okay, let's go up top here. We'll get the seatbelt signs off. No electronics off. We'll go wing light off. Beacon light can come off. Taxi light can come off. Strobe light can come off. And we'll turn our fuel pumps off, except for the forward aft. Or I guess it would just be the aft. Window heats can come off, and ladies and gentlemen, everything else looks good up top. Very good. And all we need to do now is get a hold of the ground screw after we shut the engines down. That's important. So we'll go ahead and do that. Clear that out. Very good. All right. We'll just give it a moment here for those engines to spool all the way down, and then we will contact the ground screw, contact the purser, we'll get those doors unarmed, and away we will go with the deboarding process.
At your service.
Alright, so doors to manual.
mode, please.
Affirmative. All
Okay.
doors disarmed.
Perfect. Very good, thank you. And then, over to ground. Give them a call.
Hello, this is the captain speaking.
Ground is ready.
Alright, then we'll go over here to the FB, and we'll just, yep. Right here, there we go. Alright, so we'll go
We are
unload
ready for the
passengers,
passengers
unload
to
catering, unload
disembark.
cargo, And with that, ladies and gentlemen, that
Please
will
offload the
do it
catering.
here as we are getting everything ready to go.
Please start
as-
offloading the luggage.
Yeah, there we go.
Okay.
Perfect. All right, guys, that is going to do it here for today's flight. We're at the gate, ready to go. I think what we're going to do here, though, right, we are going to look around and see if we can spot the Christ the Redeemer statue. You can see Sugarloaf off to the right of the screen there, way off in the distance. There's Sugarloaf right there, right in the center. You can see the city right there in front as well. So that means that the statue should be somewhere over here. Maybe not that far to the right. So let's just kind of keep going along the landscape here. Oh, there it is right there. Very cool. All right. Very neat. See, and that's cool too, right? Like for them to implement it in there and see the detail that they have, that's really cool that they would spend the time to do that. That just makes, you know, flying into locations like this even better, right? And for default scenery, you know, they don't have to have that in there, right? So it's great that they have implemented that, and it just makes it fun to go to these landmark cities, really, where they have all those types of cool things. And then, of course, just gonna look down on the city down below. And then there's Sugarloaf. So the other airport, the Santos Dumont, is right over here as well. I think you can kind of see it off here to the left. But that is a very fun airport to fly into, very challenging airport to fly into in this region. So yeah, very neat. All right, ladies and gentlemen, well, with that, we are going to wrap up today's featured flight. Thank you all so much for joining us. We made it from Santiago, Chile, over to Rio de Janeiro in the LATAM 777-300ER from FlightFactor. If you're interested in any of the add-ons or anything that I talked about here today, they'll be down in the description below. Feel free to leave a message or comment, and we will definitely do our best to get you set up with anything that you are seeing here today on the stream to implement into your own sim. All right, guys, that's going to do it. Thank you all so much for joining me, and until next time, I'll see you up in the skies.